and third quarter, they are beating by, as did in the third quarter, about 2 times what the street had expected. So they're beating at about 14%.
So things are pretty
and
good.
Not on revenues.
Yeah.
Not on revenues.
Okay.
On productivity gains, on margin. And so things are pretty good. There's a lot of noise. A lot of it's coming out of DC, like moment by moment, but
Trump, whether it was on the housing market, whether it was on defense company, there's a lot, everything that happened in Venezuela, which makes you think, okay, what geopolitically next might happen? How do you continue to pull that in? And Ellie, we're going to ask the same of you. How do you continue to pull that in and factor it into maybe economic projections, or do you not?
Well, we do. We do think that there's going to be a considerable amount of fiscal tailwinds that support growth throughout 2026. We do get a lot of noise when it comes to things like housing policy. And then when we factor in something like a banning of institutional investors from buying homes, we then have to think about the knock-on consequences for home valuations, for household wealth. It starts to get very tricky. So we're sort of moving at the pace of policy as opposed to at the pace of rhetoric. And right now, where we see the policy stance is that deregulation, fiscal tailwinds are going to support growth throughout the year. And again, when that's the case, no need to rush for cuts.
Ali, what about when it comes to more spending from the U.S. government? What if the president gets his wish and sees an additional $500 billion in the defense budget up from $1 trillion?
Well, then we have a couple issues because there's both sides of that trade, right? So then we have increased fiscal tailwinds, which are already, through the big, beautiful bill, which are already sort of myriad, and we've seen them already in a sense.
You're talking about the deficit and
just
then
spending. You have the deficit, right? So all of these things play together. And I think, to your point, right now you have to invest on Fed directionality, not magnitude, earnings, which is going to be significant this year, probably 10 to 12%, and much more broad. Well, when we say much more, there are about 10 companies that made up 50% of the earnings in 2025, and quite honestly, the year before and the year before. Now they're going to grow at about 22%, while the rest is going to grow about 4 or 5%. But believe it or not, there is some more breadth to that. But those are the fundamentals you have to invest in. And then you have to understand that this concept that has been coming out of Washington the last couple of days, which is affordability, is a big deal because midterm elections are this year. Mm-hmm. And so there is going to be a lot of policy put forward, a lot of rhetoric, and it's almost going to be like a live action show for the next number of months, seeing what happens between Trump and Congress, what happens in the Fed, and sort of figuring out what of these are, could happen 100%, what could happen 0%, and what's happening in the middle.
Stu, you've been looking at the midterms, right, and doing some kind of in-house calculations a little bit about whether or not we might see a GOP pushback, or maybe it won't be as strong as everybody's expecting.
Yeah, Ali brings up an interesting point about just how much affordability has been at the forefront of people's minds, including for voters. When we then take a macroeconomic perspective and we think about what really matters for voters, as much as they're focusing on affordability, because it mattered for the Mamdani election in New York, what seems to matter most are things like inflation, playing into affordability, and improving living standards. And when we then model out what the change in the structure of the House of Representatives is going to look like after the midterms, it actually doesn't look like voters are exactly rushing to flip the House. Right now, the betting markets are assigning about a 70% probability that the House flips to Democratic control after will flip. Again, this is very top down. And when you look at politics, you really need to go bottoms up from the congressional district and really understand how people are living district by district. But it doesn't exactly look like it's a mortal lock that the House is going to flip. It actually looks like it's going to be much closer in the president's favor in the midterms than betting markets are supposing right now.
So, Ali, bring it home to the markets for us and to where you're advising people to put their money.
Yeah. So this year, I called my last note lather, rinse, repeat. Over the last 2 years, you've seen the same thing. You've seen decreasing interest rates helping bonds and equities. You've seen equities doing extremely well. Actually, last year, U.S. equities were dwarfed, in a sense, by non-U.S. equities. And you've seen commodities for a whole host of reasons, including the what we have is the same levels of support and growth, Fed directionality, fiscal tailwinds, AI, but we also have another that GDP keeps on surprising to the upside. And so really there are a lot of tailwinds, and I also call it like fear of heights right now. It's hard to want to invest in these things. Well, but there's reason to be bullish.
We got about 30 seconds left for each of you. Ali, I just want to ask you, were you making investment decisions based on what President Trump had to say about institutional investors not buying
Absolutely
housing
not.
Or about defense?
Absolutely not. We make investment decisions based on the fundamentals of stocks, companies, and the macro economy. When and if that changes, and these things could markedly change.
A mini samoyed. So it's a wolf spitz, we call it. And she is basically, she has been abused for 5 years, right? It's a dog that's been neglected. And it turns out she too is a salted fish. She just wants to lay around, be petted, and just get snacks all day, right? That's
Oh, that's
basically
the
what,
greatest though. They
that's the
deserve it.
greatest thing.
The little fur friends definitely they deserve it because they're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so full of
yeah.
love.
Yeah, for
Um,
real, right?
have
She's
it
not into
reminds me.
playing as much. She's just like, yeah, it's fine. I go on my walk and then I come back and I could just lay around and hang around here with snacks.
You remind me of something I was just watching about, like, it was something to do with, I don't know, motivation and life direction and something like that, but it was talking about the AMCC and the anterior mid, cingulate cortex and how that, part of your brain gets strengthened and reinforced by doing the things that you don't wanna do, and you told me this, like, 6 months ago, and it's just funny because I was just watching something and I was like, "Oh, yeah, Wilder, taught me that," and it just has to go along with the
Talk
whole
about it all
salted
the
fish
time.
thing because the salted fish is kind of doing the opposite of like building their AMCC is kind of
Well, you do it, but then in the just have focus on the things that you actually want to marry in life, right? So
uh-huh.
this is attention, bring in attention. So no attention, none, zero to anything you don't want. That includes people who call that you don't want to talk to, things that you don't want to read about or know about. It's like, is this
Mm.
having a function? And that makes life so much easier so that you can really
It's
focus
better
in on the
to
things.
ignore the pollution, right? To ignore like the
Yes,
toxic
it's
stuff,
better
the
for your
negative energy,
brain.
the things that
For
like kind
real
of
better for your brain. You
oxidize
notice
your
that you have a ton
cells.
of time if you would
Mm.
just bring your attention to the things that you really, really want, that you ultimately want to marry, right?
Right, and this has to do with, like, signal to noise ratio, the
Yep.
whole principle of
Yep.
80/20.
Yep.
Yeah, 80% signal, 20% noise, and
Yep.
trying to optimize that, yeah,
And
which I
optimize
mean,
that.
that's for me, it's a lot easier, like, to imagine or to talk about than it is to actually apply it. I mean, I try to, but it's very for me, it's very easy to get, caught up, like, hypnotized by my current reality and totally
Yeah,
disregard
so
anything that
get
I
this
learned.
sometimes when you're the salted fish philosophy that we have
Yeah,
in my household here is basically, look, you're taking a lot of breaks, but when you are active, you are actually being efficient.
right.
And
Huh.
then you take a break, right? You take a snack or you did your workout and you go for an hour, just lounge around a little bit. Nothing, just some music, some vibes maybe, right? Have a snack, have something and
To recover.
just yeah, and then boom, go again in these bursts of things that you want to be doing. But anything
Right.
else is the noise is being so reduced here right now, especially in with the new year. That's so good, you guys. Reduce the noise. Oh my God, you have tons of time to do stuff. And even if you
Mhm.
don't want to do stuff, you have tons of time to think about, meander, daydream a little bit about a way forward, right? And that's sometimes important too.
I'm
So you
curious,
get
Fox, do you
inspired. Yeah.
Fox, do you have any furry friends? Any pets? I don't know what made me think of that, but just because we were kind of on
Oh,
a tangent.
Yeah.
I do. I do. I'm actually
You
looking
do?
after
I
my
love
friend's
it.
cat
What do you got?
um, at the moment.
Cat
Okay,
person.
I actually need to feed this cat right now. Um, so, but yeah, I just wanted to offer something about on what Wilder said as well, because like,
Yeah.
my life changes all the time, and it's changed again recently, and I kind of like no one's coming to save you. Like, there's no billionaire that's coming along. There's no magical mentor. Batman's not coming. It's just about you. Like, you really, really, really need to stop talking to people about your problems and just go out there and do something about them. Trust me. Because nothing's going to happen, my friends, my guys, my girls. You can just sit there every day and just waste away. So like, go out there and change your life. Like, don't sit and wait for fate to come to you. It doesn't work like that.
I'm curious
Right.
what inspires this, because I do definitely in my real life the social vampirism where people will kind of like trauma dump on you in order to like suck the energy out of you.
Yeah.
You encounter those people in life, and is that kind of what you're getting at, or kind of like pulling up the strings of your boots
Be right
and
back.
like and just
Jump out. I'll be right back.
he's like,
Well,
I gotta go
it's
feed that
it's very
cat.
much it's both, right? So there's
Uh-huh.
tons of people who just want to info dump, or and that's info dumping is still there, but the emo dumping has got to stop, right? People who just want to talk to you just to make them feel better, and then
Mhm.
often you feel drained. You know that
Yeah, it's
we all know the
true.
people, they have a straw and they suck
Damn.
the life right out of you, and so you need to not talk to these people. Right?
Mhm.
So, but when you're locked in on doing something that you love doing, you automatically, naturally, when you see that phone call, you're like, yeah, no. Right? And so there's it's not just these people, it's you, because you're answering
That's
the
so
call,
great.
right? Yeah.
No, because like let's say I was at the beach right now having like the time of my life, and I'm like looking out at the sunset, and all of a sudden I get a call from like one of my, like, I don't know, my least favorite person in my phone book, which I don't
Yeah.
have a whole lot of them, but let's just say hypothetically, yeah, I'm not going to answer that call because they're going to ruin my moment.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you do that naturally. You're not thinking about
yeah,
it. You're just like, yeah, not picking up, boom, done, and not giving it a
exactly.
second thought. But yeah,
I'm not going
if
down
you
that
are,
hole.
yeah,
You know what?
you, it's
Especially
not
when
the
you talk to some
people.
people and it's like you're going back down that hole with them because they're like,
Yes.
"Oh yeah, now my boyfriend, he cheated on me again." And
Oh
then
my
I
God,
found out that
yeah.
his,
And
you know, and you're like, "Okay, well,
yeah.
you're doing this to yourself.
It's
Why are
they're
you
on
victimizing
episode
yourself?"
2000 with this, right? So it's not
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first time,
exactly.
right? It's like a
Because they
repeat
love
thing.
it. The people
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
chaos, people
Yeah.
love the drama,
Drama.
people love the attention, whether it's negative. Yeah,
It's
it's interesting.
high emotion, so that's high
It's
vibes, right? So that
yeah.
a frequency. And so I
I'm
think
curious
people,
what.
when they say high
Mhm.
frequency, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think a higher frequency, like that's positive, light, love, and unicorns. It's actually not. It's just a bunch of
Right.
chaos and emotions. So the
True.
more emotions, the higher the frequency, the more noise, right?
Hmm.
So, but it's you who's interacting with that. So don't blame the people. You're picking up the goddamn phone. Nobody's telling you to pick up the phone. So there's something, a mechanism in you that you do automatically that makes you pick up the phone or respond, right? So when you found that in yourself, like, why am I doing this? Then it stops, and then you become non-responsive to that, and then it will disappear out of your life, you guys. That's how you got to do. Fox is coming back on stage. Let's talk a little bit more about crypto. We got Alien on stage with
Yeah.
us as well. Alien, how you doing? Good morning.
Yo, yo, my
Yo,
dog just died. My girlfriend left me. My
here we
truck
go.
broke down, and I have a drinking problem. No, that's why I don't like country songs.
And I,
No, I'm doing great.
That's why I
and I got
don't
no
like
gas in
country
my tank.
songs. So you got a point.
Can I borrow $20?
Yeah, you have some
And
salami
I just
for me.
got rugged. And I got rugged. Hey, EAC, what do you think? Are you over here getting rugged on base with us? I don't know. While
No,
there's
bro, I
getting ready.
messaged you. I'm on Rumble, bro. This is going to be the next thing. I think I'm live
Oh, okay.
streaming you guys right now. They got a
Rumble.
crypto wallet. You get tipped in BTC, but the alpha is getting tipped in Tether on Polygon network.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's got
What's
way less like loopholes to jump through to get to
right?
monetization, and it just needs users. And I'm bullish on it. So that's what
So
that's what I'm
rumble.com?
doing.
Rumble?
What's the
Yeah, use my referral links I sent
okay?
you in the DMs,
Oh
bro.
yeah,
So
send me too, bro.
because it yeah, we'll do. But yeah, I
Interesting.
suggest it. Like, it's way better than Pump and less hoops to jump through for YouTube, and it has the free tools where I'm streaming on YouTube right now too. So yeah, I like it.
Interesting. Interesting. Where did you send me
Uh,
the link? I'll use your
I threw it in
referral
the
code.
comments. I still can't figure out how to pin stuff. If you can pin that up for me, everyone should join up because all we got to do is keep each other's streams open in tabs and we can all get paid.
Real.
There's definitely like tools, like if you're into making videos too, where you can just make ads for other people and get paid per click, like right from the get-go.
Oh, that's something for
What?
Tiki right here. Yeah.
Yo, you're a legend for bringing this to us today. This is super sick. I'm so curious. I want to do some research on this. So far it sounds freaking dope. Very dope.
Yeah, I think like Elon needs to get on track if he wants to save crypto Twitter from everyone going there. Like that's the only thing. Like it's basically decentralized like streaming now, where nothing can really stop you. You get tipped in BTC on their wallet, so it's fully like
Nice.
nothing can shut you down. Nothing can
Right.
stop your payments. There's no there's no like algorithm that you
Tell
have
me
to like
this.
figure out.
Does that mean it
I
takes
mean, I'm sure
15
there
minutes?
is, but you know what I'm saying. Go
It
ahead.
takes
Sorry.
15 minutes to receive your payment though, because it's BTC, right? Which
So
isn't the
you
worst
can,
thing in the
so you
world.
can get, so it's backed by Tether. So you can, I'd rather get, like, I wouldn't, if someone's going to tip me, I'd
I
rather
see.
get paid Tether on Polygon
Oh,
Network.
and so the stable coin, forgive me, this is going to sound super ignorant, but I just don't know the answer. So if you get paid in the USDT on, hold on, no, I'm confused. Sorry, I'm just going to shut up. I don't really understand how that works. But you get
Yeah, you can
Tether.
get
So
USDT on ETH or on Polygon, but I mean, Polygon Network has way less fees. So, but
yeah,
yeah,
Polygon's the one that you're the big fan of, correct? Is it Poly?
yeah, I'm built out on Polygon. Pool is pumping today, and yeah, I'm definitely pushing P, and I'm not a KOL, I'm a POL, Polygon opinion leader.
Dude, I fade Poly so hard, and it's like not even intentional. It's just that it's not in the forefront in my mind, honestly. Because in my head, when I think of crypto, this is a me thing. This isn't reality. It's just the way my brain thinks. I only think that there's like 6 real coins that like, or the 6 real chains. Like that's just
Uh,
me.
That's all good, bro. Like I know Solana has the degen mindshare, but
Yeah,
Polygon is building like true payment rails. They're building the aggregated layer that's going to connect all the chains
true. What payment?
together. And they got like courtyard.io, which
Mhm.
I'm bullish on. I'm flipping Pokemon cards. I already like made $200 in like 3 weeks. And they got Polymarkets, which I'm also bullish on. I bet on every day. That's what I'm like that's what my live stream's about today is like watching the news and getting in on these Polymarket bets.
Polymarket is on Polygon Network. Dude, you just blew
Yeah,
my mind.
it's on every, like you can put in any crypto you want, but they're built out on Polygon.
Wow. Yeah, and it's a 17-year-old kid that developed Polymarket as well, right? I'm not trying to
Yeah,
spread.
he was the richest, whatever he is,
Yeah,
billionaire.
17-year-old.
That's to date, and I think like prediction markets are super
So
fun. Not
sick.
only are they like a better way to gamble,
Yeah.
but they kind of give you insight. And if you can, like, you can get an edge on it if you can kind of like get past the hype. I just like
Yeah.
I've been like I watch the news, see what's hyping, run it through Chat GBT, see what Chat GBT says, and
Uh-huh.
I've been like I've been just kind of doing these small little bets, and it's fun.
That's dope. That is very dope. Yeah, we need more people like you that are advocates of the gambling meta because a lot of people I talked about are so scared or they're like shy to talk about it because they're like, oh yeah, that's just gambling. And I'm like, well, do you participated in it or not though? Because like a lot of people like they don't really want to talk about the poly market thing. I don't know why, but I'm so fascinated by it. I think it's cool, but I'm not into gambling. I don't like
Well,
playing.
here's
So
the thing. I mean,
uh-huh.
you can like I could sell it like everything you do is gambling, bro. Like investments, gambling, going out and do anything you buy your like if that you're trying to like make a profit from or can buy later. Like it's all kind of just like gambling. And
For
this
sure.
prediction market, like yeah, it's not gambling. Like it is gambling in the sense that like but there's definitely more of an edge of like it's not like rolling dice or
That's the thing.
throwing
Yeah,
like chips
the
on a
poly
roulette table. Like there's more, you can analyze stuff and take educated
Mhm.
predictions.
Right.
So is
Yeah,
that
I was
gambling?
there. you've heard of the Polymarket bots, right? That essentially they scrape the Polymarket, find questions that are like easier to research, and basically gives you the answers and place bets on, you
Yeah,
know,
I know this
using it.
17-year-old kid, and he built a bot out, and it's basically like an arbitrages between
Yeah.
because you can bet on BTC and like ETH and XRP, like what it's going to be in 15-minute or
Oh,
hours. And
so
he built an arbitrage bot that was kind of printing, but the truth is, like, everyone's saying, oh, I can build a bot that prints. There's no such
uh-huh.
thing to date.
Right. Right. Exact. That's what fascinates me about it, is because the technology makes sense. It seems like it should be in our hands, but I've yet to see something where I'm like, whoa. Like, have you seen the movie Pi, right? The dude that formulates an equation to figure out the stock market. He has like a computer. Have you seen Pi?
No, but I'll check that out.
Yeah, watch the movie Pi. It was made in the 90s, but it's brilliant. And it's a guy that's a computer programmer, and he basically cracks the stock market and like can figure out what's going to happen next, essentially. And so he's got like the men in black knocking on his doors. He's got rabbis at the synagogue knocking on his doors for some reason, because he's unlocked some like hidden code in the Torah and stuff. It's stripped out, but you got to see it. But anyway, they were talking about this in the 90s. So it's like, what, we're 30 years later and we still don't have a freaking crystal ball. Like, I'm like, this technology exists. It's just not like very public yet, but there's somebody sitting there with a bot that can answer anything. It has to exist. It has to.
Well, it's just like there's so much variables. Like Trump says that you can't trade military stocks and stocks go down, and then Trump says that he's adding like funds to the military, and then the stocks go up. So
Wow. Well, silver too. I was just watching something about how silver is skyrocketing, and that's due to AI and the whole like military industrialization. And like, I don't know how true that is, but I guess silver is used in like rockets and bombs and explosives and all
the
sorts of
other
stuff.
one was like Venezuela looks like a meme coin chart. Like after it got invaded, it just shot
Oh,
the stock
for
market
real?
shot up. Yeah, like it's almost like
Oh,
100% or something, which is
no
crazy
way.
for a stock market.
So how do I see that market analysis for Venezuela? To look at like the GDP?
I don't know. I just saw it on the timeline, so maybe it's,
I'm
but I
curious.
think it's true. Well, I heard it on Bloomberg too. So,
You're like, I heard it on 4chan, so it must be true. I'm just kidding.
oh, that's
Um,
the thing with the X timeline. Like, you can't believe anything now. Like, if you watch
yeah,
a
dude,
video,
I've been coming across videos, and people are like, they're like, oh yeah, wait till you see this. I saw one, and it was like the guy Beetlejuice from Howard Stern, and he like coming out, and he's like, yeah, dude, I'm actually not dumb. I've been smart this whole time, and I don't want to like wear the clown suit anymore. I just want to live a life in peace and all this stuff. And at the end of the video, I'm like, that was probably AI. Like, someone took the likeness of Beetlejuice's voice and made a whole script about how, oh, I'm really smart and I'm 57 years old and I want to retire from the entertainment business. But it's just a giant LARP. Like, I think that's a lot more likely that it is AI than Beetlejuice has been actually like a really smart individual this whole time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with who I'm talking about. He's the African American midget dude with like the buck teeth. He's got like has a really high pitched voice like this.
yeah, bro, I know.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. Anyway, but yeah, anything could just be AI. Hypothetically, I see so many videos and people are like, "Oh, dude, I'm scared. Like this orb has digital numbers inside of it, and I think it's aliens sending us a message." And it's like, no, that video was probably created with AI. Like anything could be
Oh
created
no,
with
that
AI.
one's true. Aliens are real
What?
for sure.
Oh man,
Yo,
yeah, I
yo,
don't know.
yo,
I'll
yo,
believe it.
yo, 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 yo. I'm
What's
sorry, I've
up?
had my hand up for ages. And also, like, that's because of the general
Aliens
IQ
are real.
level of
Boom.
people.
Fox on the mic.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Basically, like, I just wanted to say that, one, people's IQ isn't that high a lot of the time in a general demographic. I think it's not me being offensive to people. It's that people don't have the perception skills and general knowledge and access to life experience, which then enables them to have critical thinking and original thinking to discern between these things. And I don't want to use big words to say this, but like people struggle with it. And some people just think that they're going to heaven in the end, and that's all they're waiting for. And bless them at the same time. And like, because I couldn't imagine that, but I do have a lot of sympathy, not sympathy, sorry, but a lot of empathy for people that can't consider stuff like this. At the same time, but also to detract. EAC, brother, you said you're on Polygon. I was on their spaces the other day. I've got a trading bot which runs market making and volume bots and stuff on Polygon, and no one's using it yet. And if you're plugged into the community, I would love to connect with you to be able to organize some fun things separately. I'm sorry, I got a shill. This is what I do.
For sure, bro.
Yeah. But I built out a whole thing on there, and I would love to connect if you've got more connections to the Polygon ecosystem. Like, I've been in that dev chat. I know everything that they're doing. I've been on their spaces, and they are becoming the first payment solutions. That's where we're aiming. Every blockchain will have a use case, right? And you're bullish on that, right?
Yeah, like that's how I feel. Like I feel like right now it's kind of all the liquidity segregated. Everyone's pushing the chain that they're on, which makes sense because it's like you can't be on every chain. You'd spend all your time, and then you can't have all your like you can diversify your bags, but you can't. Obviously, you got your bigger bags on the chains that you're pushing. So but
Yep.
I think like every chain serves a purpose and has its own market, and not all of them. Some of them are just will disappear, but most of them anyways. And then so that's why aggregated layer, like connecting all the chains together, so it's just super simple. So when someone who doesn't really know crypto for the first time comes in, they can just buy whatever digital asset that whatever they're there to buy or whatever they're hearing about, and it's not super complicated. Like you got to get an Ethereum wallet or a Solana wallet or and bridge stuff. The assets will just be there on the aggregated layer, and you just swap in and you pick and choose what you want to receive. Like if you want to have Solana and pay Solana gas, but buy Polygon Ethereum assets, well, you can do that. If someone wants to send you um, Polygon, but you want to receive Solana, you can do that on the aggregated layer. So I think it's a real problem in crypto right now that's going to be solved. And I think in a year or two, we won't be talking about, oh, what chain are you on? What chain are you on? We'll just be like, you're in crypto. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, like you're advanced enough to be able to understand, and I agree. Like Polygon for payment, Sui for gaming, or Futurism, or whatever that is, Base for building, ETH for like, well, the OG where the money is. But a lot of people don't know what an aggregator is. They have no idea, and this is why centralized exchanges are the first calling point for anybody that onboards. Because like, okay, how do I do this? Or they get scammed by somebody that says that they're buying it, and then really they're just taking their money. So like I totally agree with you 100%, and we do need to reduce steps to be able to actually facilitate the onboarding of people, but also in a way where they can just engage with these assets or these things, these coins, these chains, these networks, whichever one they prefer, in a way which then actually allows them to get there without any of this headache. Because I don't know how long you've been here, but you obviously have enough knowledge to be able to understand about aggregation and like these layers and stuff. And most people are like, what is this? It's a Bitcoin. Okay. What's an ETH? What? What's a bridge? I don't know. And like, there's so much confusion right now. I mean, we are talking jargon. If most people heard us, like most of my mates, if they heard, I hear them talking about crypto, and like I don't like my partners used to look at me and smile because they would know what I do, but I would always shake my head. I would never get involved because it takes me 3 minutes for eyes to glaze over, and I can't be bothered. I just gotta say that.
Oh, for sure. Like, and that's what we need for mass adoption. It just needs to be super simple. And
Well, it
Coinbase
needs
can like front run, get people in the door, and then after, if you want to like own your own assets outside of a centralized
yeah.
exchange,
I
then you go
think for
to.
most people that are going to deal with crypto without knowing they're going to deal with crypto, I think that's going to be the outcome, just because of the semantics right around it. Just that we speak a very different language, and it's very hard to. It's very dense, and it makes people feel inadequate. It's really simple for us. And you know what? When the incentive is right, people will board. That's the thing. When Trump token was pumping and there's money to be made, man, you bet your ass people
Yeah,
are just opening wallets, even if they have to jump to 10 hoops and spend 15 hours getting there.
exactly.
So And that is just sentiment in the market when it comes to that. But I think use case, I think a lot of people are just going to use crypto without knowing they're using crypto. Just like we're using Swift as a bank system, that a lot of people don't even know what Swift is. So they heard about it. Oh yeah, Swift, but are not exactly sure what it is and what it does. And so same thing there. I think that is where we're gonna have to end up in. But yeah, you guys get into DMs and start speaking to each other, make connections.
Yeah, I think there's things happening this year that are gonna make it like so it's easy. Like there's MoonPay, but MoonPay takes a huge fee and it's not actually like as easy as it could be.
Yeah.
But there's buttons like that I see like that the developers have. They just have to make active for just taking your credit card and then just doing stuff and like you said, not even knowing you're on
Yeah,
crypto.
exactly. That is gonna be a thing, and I think that would be a signal that we're getting that adoption is happening. Right. Until then, we are dealing with people who want to trade, and then we're dealing with the sentiment of the market, right? Which let's have a little bit of a look on the Bitcoin right now. And then I need to already make an end to this space here, Tick, because I need to make a call. I gotta do
Gotcha.
it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's a little bit difficult because I thought, I speak Turkish, but I guess not as fluent anymore as I used to. So it's kind of challenging technically, right? Technical languages. So there's that. Dominance drifting here. That's nice to see. Let me see. We should be like a little even Steven. Are we even Steven? Yes, we are even Steven. But we are oversold, right, on that daily. So I'm thinking over the weekend we're just going to come down, do some retesting here, and still looks like a bear flag to me on the daily. Very much bear flag vibes there because we're in a bear trend. So anything that flags out. However, the fourth hour looks good, so we might just pump it maybe over a little bit, like a couple of percentage here, and then possibly need to relax that RSI down limit. But for me, that's not interesting. I'm looking at the weekly. The weekly stochastic hasn't broken the 20 points. And so breaking the 20 points should be happening around 100K. That's when that RSI will then reach 20 points. And then you can get your longs out massive, right? Then you need to go all in on your longs there because that is an indicator that we're just going to pump a little bit harder for a longer time. And so you can leave your long outs for a longer period of time. That weekly stochastic is one to look at if you want to trade on Bitcoin and you want to make like two really good trades a year or something like that, right? Then the stochastic RSI golden cross confirmed over the 20 points, so not anything lower than 20. But we're not there yet, and it's teasing. Has been teasing for a while now. But we see deep pumping, right? Deep on Sui. We see Tau, Bitensor doing pumps. There's some tokens that are really trying to make something. Yeah, ECA back on price. Some things just landed right back on price again after a good recovery. But yeah, that's what we got. The dominance hasn't dropped anywhere that anything is allowed to run outside of Bitcoin by much. So just keep that in mind, you guys. Right, and that's just where we are with the sentiment is still very much bearish. I wish I could say something else, and possibly I feel the vibe right now in the market. I felt before in like 23 when we were like very, very bearish, and all of a sudden meme season happened. I think there's going to be some memes that are going to be popping up, either re-rallies or just new rallies coming. It's just a vibe at this point because people are so bearish and I see so little shilling, and that's kind of a bearish indicator, bottom indicator, right? And that's basically, but then what to buy? Yeah, I don't know. The next shitter is around the corner. Go ahead, Fox.
Yeah. The next shitter is right around the corner. That's awesome. I'm actually studying. Go ahead, sorry.
I really want to add to this point because I stopped myself trading around 2 months ago and was watching the market. And basically, I have been checking Solana, ETH, BNB, and all of the meme coins and layer twos. Layer two is like utility tokens or tokens built on a chain for anybody that's listening who doesn't know. And essentially, I have been catching some really, really good plays, like 50K to 3.5 million, and like lots of runners. Like, and I'm not joking. Like at least three a week. I'm still not trading
Then
right
what's the
now.
ticker? You're
Because I'm not actively trading. I just wanted to add to the sentiment that I believe that even if the macro market may fail in a way, because we don't know, we can't predict it because of wartime data and everything that's happening. Wilder is much more of a genius on this than me. I'm not into it. But I do really want to say that there are always opportunities, my friends, but you need to get that information. You need to find people that actually get access to it. And then you need to actually pay attention. And there's a difference. There are some tokens that you can hold for longer than a day. And actually, those are the ones that have been pumping. And then I've been sat there on the sidelines like, bro, what? But there's always opportunities, my friends. Please lock in. And I mean that. What I said earlier, what Wilder did, change your life. Stop talking to people about your problems and do something about them. Keep an eye. And if you fail, keep failing, keep losing, keep trying, because you will get there. I promise you. I'm wrecked as hell right now. I've just been given free tickets to a Cirque du Soleil show, so I'm gonna go. But I'm still pushing. I'm doing events. I'm doing everything I can. But all I can say, do not slip away. Do not get complacent. You want to relax? You don't get to relax. You're not there yet. And when you do start to get motion, do not stop that motion. Carry on, because you don't get to relax until you actually get to the point where you're like, whoa, I'm making money. And that's the point where you grind harder. You do not slip up. Do not give up on yourselves, my friends. This is my last thing. Please choose yourselves. Stop talking to people about your pain. Go out and do something about it. Even if it's just the things that you can do in your day. Just keep on it. Don't give up, ever.
Oh, that's the thing, right? When you talk about your problems, you're basically magnifying those problems. And so you'll find them anywhere, everywhere. And you'll find yourself in conversation with people about exactly the same topics that were on your mind. And so that's you, right? So you gotta just notice that a little bit, observe that about yourself a little bit, where you are doing. We all do this, right? When we get this tendency to complain, but it's always about past shit, right? And we just don't live there anymore. Today is today, and tomorrow is going to be can be a whole different life. You're closer than you think. You're closer than you think, and one phone call can change your life.
100.
180. It can do 180. It's one phone call. Hey, Wild, you won the lottery jackpot. Boom, done. Right? That could be a phone call. It could be massive an amount of things that can change the day. We know this because we already experienced. It always comes like that, right? The big things, they always come like that. So, it's that person that you meet, it's that or talk to in spaces or DM'd with. I got so many people that I met along the way just from other projects, talking to each other in spaces. And you get so much alpha if you're open for it. So your network will always be your net worth. It's about information and knowledge, especially in this space, right? So you just got to hang with it. That's basically what I want to say. And then opportunity will fly by. Look, I'm aligned with Filter. I'm working in Team Froge. I am having new business alliances in Turkey pulled back in, and I'm set to make a lot of money also with trading. And that happened in the span of just 3 days, these things. 3 days, boom, 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 everything knocking on your door at the same time. So that's how it works, you guys. But you got to stay on the wire for it, right? You got to be having a door open to it, or else it can't find you. So you got to stay active, grow your socials, grow your account. One of the best things that you can do is grow your account. Not because of Elon shackles. Forget Elon shackles. There's too little. But to actually as a net that you cast, right? Because if I didn't have this account, I wouldn't be eligible for a lot of things, and a lot of things would not have found me. And so, that's what it does for you. So go ahead, build that, and don't think it's going to take years. I've built my account back up, and it started somewhere end of April, and I'm on like 20,000 followers right now, having a healthy account again. Right, the other account used 3 years to make. Now I did the same in less than a year. So it's possible, right? It's just a little bit of grinding. But I do have to get out of here. I do. And so, we are, and tomorrow there will not be what's the ticker because then we'll have work as well. So we got to take, maybe we got to be in DMs and figure out how to go forward and maybe reduce the amounts of what's the tickers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah.
Because work is knocking. And
dude, I had to pay the last couple months. The streaming, it uses a lot of data when I do this. And so the last couple months, I was paying like an extra $80 per month in my internet service because I was
you're
going
going
over
over.
my data. So reeling it in a little bit
Yeah.
wouldn't be the worst idea.
No, not just
I was thinking,
financially, but then you free up some time to do something else. I'm really
for
feeling
sure.
that I'm strapped right now. I was co-host in Crypto Moonlight, and I had to stop that as well because my mornings are looking very much different here this new year. But I'm not complaining about it. Just we got to make it fit. We got to make it then work, right? So let's just be out here. Let's go. And I
I'm trying
wonder
to
where
get
Adam
Rumble
is
to work.
too.
EAC, you got to give me the alpha on Rumble. I'm trying to get it to work on my end, and I feel like a
Yeah,
lost
hit me
guy.
up in the DMs, bro. And Dark, accept my friend request and hit me up in the DMs. Shout out Wilder. Keep it wild.
Oh yeah.
Got a runner on the map, a line of sniping like a gat, and the Zoe is moving quickly. I'm the squeezing where they at. I'm trying to bring them in back. 1,000 X is gonna land. I got it chilling in the back, and the gas fees are gonna slap. Where's the ticker? Where's it at?
Yesterday's the back on Saturday then. Tomorrow's Friday, right? And hope to catch you there. What a time to be alive. That's because Adam is not here. Let's go.
Thank you for pulling up today, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh no, actually, I'll see you
No,
Saturday.
it's Saturday.
Saturday. Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Stay bullish, my friend.
Stay bullish.
Where's the ticker? Where's it at? I got
We still see technicals and momentum in the driver's seat.
What I think matters most of all is the fundamentals.
Active in AI, but look across the market.
The market is optimism about global reacceleration.
I like the momentum of the market. I like where it's going.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Jonathan Farrow, Lisa Abramowitz, and Anne-Marie Hordern.
Live from New York City this morning. Good morning, good morning. For our audience worldwide, Bloomberg Surveillance starts right now. Coming into Thursday, facing down an interventionist Washington. President Trump looking to ban big investors from buying single-family homes. At the same time, he targets defense companies for buying back too much stock. The White House is also pushing to boost defense spending by $500 billion, a 50% increase for 27.
So it's been a mind-bending 48 hours. Truly, people are trying to register the barrage of information coming from the White House. And there are a lot of questions around what can actually get through, but there are a couple of really important takeaways. Number one, this is a focus increasingly on populism and catering to poll numbers that indicate a lot of displeasure. Number two, expect an expanded fiscal deficit. We are going to see that one way or another. And number three, expect a more militarized United States. And that was clear by that latest salvo with respect to that budget.
So let's get to defense. We're seeing a big rally for some of those stocks in the pre-market. There is a carrot and there is a massive stick. There's one and the other. And I can tell you at the moment the carrot's winning because we're seeing that rally across the board.
Whiplash when it comes to these defense companies overnight. First, Trump comes out and says, you cannot have massive dividends. You cannot have massive buybacks. I am capping executive pay. Something you would hear from the likes of, say, Senator Bernie Sanders or Senator Elizabeth Warren, to your point about populism. Then he comes out and says, actually, to have this dream military, we need $500 billion more. This would be the single biggest increase we have ever seen for the DOD to get. And that is why then you have this whiplash and they're starting to look, potentially, can we get this through? But Trump's point, the Golden Dome, the Golden Fleet, all these things he's talked about are not currently paid for in the current budget.
We've got to cover that. We've got to cover housing as well. Housing for living, not for speculation. President Xi, 10 years ago. In the last 24 hours, President Trump, people live in homes, not corporations. There are some similarities in this effort.
Yeah, some real surprises that this is coming out of the White House. And I think that Neil Dutta of Red Mac will express some of that coming up in just a bit. There is a question here about whether this is just a trial balloon, as Meredith Whitney was talking about, or whether this was something that was actually sustainable. You saw that really playing out in the shares of Blackstone, considering that they are such a huge owner of single-family homes. You could see that being pulled back, especially because Steve Schwarzman is a close friend of Donald Trump's and has a lot of clout in Washington, D.C. A surprise from some people that President Trump has taken this populist approach. On the other hand, look at the polls, look at the rhetoric coming out of some of the warnings from midterm elections.
Without a doubt, politically popular. Question we've got to ask this morning, is it economically effective?
Well, to Lisa's point, Neil Dutta is going to tell you no. When it comes to also these individuals like Blackstone that are buying up these single family homes, it's a tiny part of the market. And at the same time, it actually might make it worse for home builders to go out there and want to spend. When you talk about the politics, though, do you know who else yesterday announced plans to prevent PE firms and hedge funds from purchasing homes? Gavin Newsom in California. An individual who wants to be president and is running for sure for 2028.
If you are just tuning in, welcome to the program. Equity futures this morning pulling back. The rally stores were down about 0.2%. Coming up this hour, we'll catch up with Seema Shah of Principal Asset Management as risk appetite takes a breather. Neil Dutta of Renmac as President Trump takes on corporate America. And Amrita Sen of Energy Aspects as the US pledges to control Venezuelan crude. We begin this hour with stocks continuing to pull back from all-time highs. Seema Shah of Principal Asset Management seeing upside ahead, writing widespread fiscal stimulus, monetary normalization, accelerating AI-driven capex and adoption are all factors that should underpin robust growth. Seema joins us now for more. Seema, they're the kind of structural, big picture stories for the next 12, 24 months or so. Let's talk about the last 12, 24 hours. Seema, we're pushing back on executive pay, on capital returns. These are things you wouldn't typically associate with the United States, certainly wouldn't typically associate them with the Republican Party. As you sit there in London and your investors think about allocating capital to the United States, does it give you pause?
Well, hi, John. I think it does to some extent. I mean, any time that you have government intervention, it typically does put off investors, obviously by varying amounts. There are some things that he said there which I think they don't necessarily add up. I mean, in terms of putting off investors from corporate housing, you almost need them there to encourage greater supply, which would be your best way of resolving affordability issues. And then even on the defense side, you know, trying to put off the investment is hardly going to be conducive to some of the things that he's saying. the other thing about this as well is that coming into 2026, there's obviously been a lot of optimism. One of the things that's been on people's assumptions is that policy upheaval, volatility is going to be a little bit less than what we had last year. And of course, as you said, the last 48 hours suggests the exact opposite. So I think that there's some things in here which may not have immediate impact, but certainly from an investor standpoint, this is a moment of pause that maybe 2026 is not going to be as smooth as a lot of people are anticipating.
Well, Seema, let's just reflect on the last 12 months. So earnings have been great. Payroll growth has been absolutely terrible. And investors have been okay with that because earnings have been great and the equity market's been hitting all-time highs. At the same time, consumer sentiment has been rock bottom. Now, if you're a politician, to address the consumer sentiment issues, you might have to introduce policies that aren't going to be favourable for the kind of things that have driven us to all-time highs in the equity market, the kind of things that have driven a long-term bull market in the United States. Seema, do we have to think about those issues a little bit more going into the midterms and beyond? That for a whole generation of individuals that haven't participated in this run-up in the equity market, they're voting for this stuff. And they're going to keep voting for this stuff. And it's the kind of stuff that's not going to be favourable for risk assets.
It is. I think it's some of those pockets. So it's a question of how much does that impact the aggregate. So, as you said, to your point, affordability is going to be the buzzword. It has been for the last month or two. It's likely to continue. How could we see that playing out? Well, there's obviously the couple of policies around a tariff dividend. There's also the idea about maybe potentially lowering some of the tariffs that are impacting some of the lower income households the most. Now, those things, ideally, if we think that through, if they can get passed, and that would suggest that you could see some upside for consumer discretionary. But ultimately, because of the K-shape, but mainly because the top 10% really do account for around half of US consumer spending, it doesn't necessarily move the needle. What we want to see is a constructive economic backdrop where earnings can continue to do well. And it's important that those policies, and at the moment it doesn't look like it will be, but as long as those policies are not going to be impacting the earnings growth for a lot of these companies that we're focusing on.
This is the reason why, Seema, so many people have looked past some of the volatility and at least headlines coming from Washington, D.C. There is one aspect, though, that has remained relatively unnoticed, at least with respect to bond markets, and that is you can expect an expansion of the fiscal deficit possibly quite considerably, especially if anything even close to what the president is proposing relating to the government, relating to the military comes to pass. Why do you think that's not shaking up fixed income markets in any material way?
What if you could clean your retainer at the touch of a button? No more brushing or tablets. Over 4 years ago, our team of
Well, I think at the moment, one of the considerations is that a lot of this won't get passed through Congress. So there's enough, I wouldn't say fiscal discipline or considerable concern, but there's enough of a pushback that a lot of this won't come to pass. But I think that you're absolutely right in saying that this is a key risk. When we're looking at the equity market, we feel pretty positive about the macro backdrop and earnings. The one caveat to this, though, is that bond yields have to stay fairly well behaved. You cannot see a very significant sell-off against this backdrop. I mean, ultimately for this year, what we're expecting is that equity returns won't be driven by multiple expansion. They have to come from earnings. And any significant increase in interest rates, bond yields, could be a real hurdle for the expectations of I guess, low double-digit returns that we have.
Well, I guess to build on that, we've just seen the fastest start to a year for corporate and government bond issuance ever. We have seen $260 billion worth of sales from these entities over just the first few trading days. And I just wonder at what point you start to get real pushback from debt markets that are saying, what are we funding exactly? Is there sort of a blank check that we're offering to governments and corporations to just build to nowhere?
Coming into 2026, I think everyone's, concerned about the debt load, as they have been for many, many years. And the assumption has been that 2026 is not the year when this is going to come to a head. As long as the macro is okay, as long as the economy is doing okay, the Fed is cutting rates, then this is something, the issuance is something that companies can continue to absorb. But of course, there is a time limit to that. Now, we don't know when that's going to be, but at least just looking at the economics behind everything, which is driving the market, we do feel fairly sanguine about that. We're hoping it's a 2027 story, not a 26 story.
Seema, as a global strategist, when you see what the president is doing, the state intervention really in full swing when it comes to the United States right now, do you expect this to be a theme this year for more industries, not just ones that are critical for national security?
Well, I think that interventionist is, as you said, it potentially isn't about just national security. I think, as I said before, I think affordability is really key. which is why we're hearing so much about housing. Maybe intervention in, or at least pushing back from companies, or at least stopping them from passing on some of the tariff increases. I think those are all things that we could anticipate for 2026. And I think as an international investor, one of the things that we do here in Europe and across Asia is these concerns about the US outlook is one of the reasons why you are seeing this global diversification trade just gaining more and more momentum. People really starting to look outside of the US and also recognizing the fundamental strengths that exist in other countries. I don't think that we're looking at a kind of a flood of movement away from the US, but I think it does just add to the attractiveness for other markets.
How seriously do you take some of the president's statements? Because I'm thinking of just housing itself. He even said, I will call on Congress to codify it. This has to be legislation that goes through the House of Representatives and the Senate, not policy by truth.
Yeah, you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. And I think, the reason that we're not seeing the bond market react is because there is this belief that it's not going to get through Congress. So these are very popular words. Some of it ineptly, I think, will trickle through. But we're not expecting an avalanche of policy moves, but a lot of policy rhetoric should be expected ahead of the midterms.
Seema, always appreciate catching up with you. Seema Shah there of Principal Asset Management. As for the bond market, yields only up by a single basis point, 416 this morning on a 10-year maturity. Seema's right to point out that this is not necessarily a 26 story, might be 27, might be pushed out to 28 and beyond. But ultimately, you've got to take stock of things. The status quo cannot persist. The outperformance on Wall Street, met with the underperformance on Main Street, cannot persist. And I always say this about politicians. Most people do too. Politicians care about one thing, staying in office. And with that in mind, it's no surprise at all that the policies, the economic policies of the left and the right are converging because they're the policies right now that are popular. Now, they're going to keep initiating these kind of policies on both the left and the right. They're almost guaranteed for years to come. These are the kind of policies that aren't going to be welcomed on Wall Street and beyond.
Right now, all that Wall Street is focusing on are the sweeteners, the idea of what potential oomph the market is going to get or the economy is going to get from the one big beautiful bill and tax cuts. They're not looking at any kind of massive fiscal expansion of the deficit. And that ultimately is what would happen if some of these proposals went through. And I think that is the disconnect, the bond market and the stock market. There seems to be a truck you can drive through the opening between the two of them. And you just wonder at what point that gets reconciled.
I'm pleased you brought up the bond market. $500 billion boost to spending.
I mean,
military.
It would be actually $600 billion versus the budget this year. And according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, it would add $5.8 trillion to the federal deficit over the next decade. So that definitely is a number that would get people's attention.
There goes the tariff revenue.
Exactly.
Again, we've done that a few times.
I think it's already gone.
Yields this morning, as I say, higher by just a single basis point, 416. Lots to talk about throughout the programme today. Let's give you an update on stories worldwide with your Bloomberg Brief. Here's Yahara with more. Hey, Yahara.
Hi, John. President Donald Trump saying he'll ban institutional investors from buying single-family homes. The president's posting on Truth Social, people live in homes, not corporations, and saying he would talk more about the issue at the World Economic Forum in Davos later this month. Trump also saying he will request a more than 50% increase in next year's military budgets to $1.5 trillion, as you all were just discussing. The president's also calling for military contractors to cut dividends and buybacks. He called out RTX specifically, threatening to stop doing business with the missile maker unless it invests more in its production capabilities.
Okay, if your coworkers are asking you to explain things all the time, this is what you should do.
It's really hard for people to share what they know how to do with others. It's very manual and time consuming. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Scribe. We're on a mission to make it easy to up-level everyone around you instantly and automatically. That's why we created Scribe, to make it easy.
And protests erupting in Minneapolis after an ICE officer shot and killed a woman in a car during a confrontation. President Trump saying the officer appeared to be acting in self-defense, alleging the victim acted in a disorderly and obstructive way. The Minneapolis mayor has called on ICE to leave the city. That's your Bloomberg Brief. John.
Yahara, thank you. Thanks for the update. More from Yahara in about 30 minutes' time. Up next on the programme, ramping up defence spending.
Nobody has our weapons. Nobody has the quality of our weapons. The problem is we don't produce them fast enough. We're going to start producing them much faster. We're going to be very tough on the companies.
Up next, we'll catch up with Doug Redeker of International Capital Strategies, live from New York City this morning. Good morning. Housing pause on a 3-day winning streak on the S&P 500. Down yesterday, down again this morning, pulling back by 0.2%. On the Nasdaq 100, down by about a quarter. On the Russell, we're down by 0.4. Check out the bond market. Yield higher by just a single basis point, 416 on 10s. Really whipsawed by the economic data in the last 24 hours. ISM was pretty decent. Jolts, not so great. Then the Challenger job cuts we've seen earlier this morning, Lisa, they're okay.
Yeah, they came in given at the lowest level going back to July of 2024, just highlighting that you are not seeing the firing. You saw a similar thing in the separations aspect of the JOLTS report, even though the headline number of the JOLTS data wasn't that great. What you did see was the quits rate actually ticked up, and you didn't see the layoffs really go up. So what do you do with a low fire, low hire type of environment that has just been a quagmire for all economists trying to get their hands around it?
Look for more data. Get more data at 8:30 Eastern time. Been saying that for months. Jobless claims just around the corner, 8:30, about 2 hours away. Under surveillance this morning, ramping up defense spending.
Nobody has our weapons. Nobody has the quality of our weapons. The problem is we don't produce them fast enough.
No music when we're about to rip a pack. No music. All business. I need some pack luck from the chat. I need some pack luck from the chat. You guys need to give me all your energy right now. I need some fire and water emojis right now. Fire and water emojis in the chat. Once I get a bunch of fire and water emojis, I need at least 10. I need at least 10 fire and water emojis. All right? At least 10. Let's get some energy vibes in the chat, and then I'm going to open it. I need 10 emojis. 10 emojis. That's all I'm asking for. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. Okay. Yo, this is actually sick. Oh. Little Blastoise action. And like you see right here, market value $69. We basically broke even, but I got a pretty cool card. So I'm vibing with that. If I want, I could do a buyback offer. Courtyard does a 90% buyback offer with all of their cards. So I don't have to worry about collecting it or listing it on a marketplace and then having to worry about shipping it, maybe getting some weird DMs from people or someone trying to like haggle me. I'm just going to accept the buyback offer. There's a little bit of a service fee, but I'm going to do it. You know, that's all I got to worry about. That's it. I'm good. I could rip more packs now. Very easy. But I really like this card. It is a grade 8, so pretty cool. It's most likely going to go back into the vending machine. I'm pretty sure a bunch of these are in the packs. So you can get something like this Blastoise. So yeah, that was a vibe. That was a vibe. I'm very happy with that poll, to be honest. That was probably one of my favorite polls that I've done on stream so far, honestly. I really rock with Blastoise. Feel like you could always have that Blastoise energy. So we're gonna be doing this every single week. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see out of these streams. Obviously I saw giveaways, and anything else you guys want to see. You guys want to see more rips. You guys want me to go into more detail about the chase cards. You want me to give you some fun facts. I'm down to do anything. So let me know in the comments. W stream. Want everyone to put W's in the stream, in the chat. I love you guys. It's always, always, always a vibe. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So I will see you again next Thursday for the next limited live event drop that we're doing. I'm giving you a hint. It's not going to be a Pokemon pack. It is not going to be a Pokemon pack. So, with that being said, it is your boy Danny. Peace.
Massive stance on stock buybacks, while also pushing for a major increase to spending. Bloomberg's Jonathan Tamari joins us now for more. Jonathan, welcome to the program. Let's talk about that increase and the carrot and the stick that the president issued just yesterday.
At West Coast Family Dental, the health and comfort of our Port Alberni patients is our first priority.
Yeah, I think first off, I think it's important to keep in mind that the spending piece at least is going to have to go through Congress. And with the president increasingly talking about aggressive action around the world and cutting Congress out of that decision-making process, I think it's very unlikely Democrats are going to write him such a big check. I do think you're seeing kind of two different conflicting aspects of the president here. That populist side of him wants to take on big businesses and show that he's not in the pocket of corporations, against the military side, the militaristic side that kind of sees these big successes like we saw in Venezuela and might want to attempt more of them.
So, Jonathan, looking at the defense contractors, I think a lot of people will be watching this program saying today, you know what? These guys, these companies defend massively on government contracts, overwhelmingly so. Maybe the government should have a say on how much executives are being paid since they're enriching themselves off the taxpayer money that comes in. Jonathan, my question would be, does this kind of thinking, this kind of pushback against executive pay, stock buybacks, extend to other sectors outside of big government contractors?
I think you're starting to see more of that from both sides of the parties. I mean, when you talk to people in politics, they'll say the divide is less now right, left, center, right, and populist and not populist. And there's a populist strain going through both parties right now, and that includes taking on corporate powers. And you hear that even from people who come from some moderate districts. It's not only the fringes of the parties anymore. So I do think this is going to be a continuing feature of politics going forward.
Jonathan, appreciate the update. We'll catch up with you again in the next hour. At least you've talked about this a few times. The two sides just convergent.
Yeah, and when you want to know the why, you take a look at the fact that wages for the lowest income earners have actually fallen well below the increases in wages that you've seen at the high income earners. And you see that inflation is being felt much more significantly at the low income sectors. That divide getting bigger, fueling that connection between the circle.
To build on that conversation, Doug Redeker joins us now, the founder of International Capital Strategies. Doug, welcome to the program, sir. A real populist twist to the last 24 hours. Is that a flavor of more to come for the year ahead going into the midterms?
I think everything's about the midterms in 2026, and we're only in the first week of January. So I think it's going to get much, much more political as we go, and much more fantasy land. I mean, what we're talking about this morning already is kind of crazy, right? I mean, you're living in a world in which you're throwing around numbers like $500 billion of additional defense spending and an enormous overreach of presidential and political authority into the corporate sector. Yes, the defense sector is deeply tied in with the military-industrial complex to the U.S. government. But still, this is stuff that a year ago even we just would have thought was crazy stuff. So yeah, I think everything right now is Trump talking and everybody reacting. And then as Seema said in the last sector, a lot of people are saying, yeah, but it's not going to really happen. And so how much of the rhetoric translates into reality, and what do the markets do in the meantime? I'm just very concerned about the disconnect between Trump's rhetoric, what's really going to happen on the ground, whether it's Washington, Venezuela, Greenland, or anywhere else, and how the markets interpret it. I think it's just very hard to predict this year.
Well, Doug, even if there was appetite in Washington for $500 billion more going to the DOD, could the United States afford it?
Of course not. And again, let's just remember, this is fighting the last war. So even if there was an appetite to spend $500 billion, is there anybody in the defense industry that, if you ask them honestly, would say, let's spend it on the same stuff we've been spending it on? Or are there any lessons that we all learn from Ukraine that warfare has changed? Drones are where the future is. A whole bunch of nimble, newfangled weapons that do not cost anything near what these big, huge projects have traditionally cost the American taxpayer and others. That's where it is. And Trump seems to be ignoring that. So whether it's $500 billion spent on X or Y, it doesn't seem as if any of it makes any sense in the context of where the defense industry is right now, and where all the other spending commitments Trump is making seem to be in relation to the 21st century demands of the global economy.
He also went after individuals that are buying up single family homes, those institutional investors. When you talk to clients, are they concerned about the state capitalism that we are seeing out of this White House?
It's funny, they're not as concerned as I think they should be, because I think that the premise of your question is the mantra of what America used to excel at: innovation, entrepreneurialism, and a divorcing of state control over, let's not call it Wall Street, over business innovation and the ability for markets and investors to put their money where they think the investor returns are going to be highest based on their risk tolerance and innovation. That's all out the window if the government, and in this case, one particular person, the president, gets to make these decisions somewhat unilaterally. I mean, without blurring the conversation here, if you listen to what he's saying about the Venezuelan oil industry, I mean, it seems as if he wants to decide personally what's going to happen to the revenues that he's decided he's going to take and spend how he wants to make them. If I'm an investor, if I'm in the business community, I'm scratching my head and saying, is this the country that we thought the American economy was premised on? And the answer is not as clear as it was the day before yesterday.
Doug, you started by saying it's all about the midterm elections. And if I were cynical, I would say that things are getting increasingly bombastic coming out of the White House. And I wonder how much that's tied to something particular having to do with the midterm elections. Is there something you're keeping your eye on to sort of get a sense of how many proposals from from Washington, D.C. we can expect to see?
Well, I thought that the underplayed story of the week, if there is such a thing, was when Trump went to the Republican House and said, if you guys don't win the midterms, I'm going to get impeached. And I think that was a tell for what's on Trump's mind. Not that he cares so much about being impeached and ousted from office. It's highly unlikely that the Senate would convict, even if the House impeaches. But I do think he's looking at a political environment that is much more fragile than he would like it to be. That's going to impact his own confidence in how he rolls out these policies. He's obviously increasingly autocratic in his rhetoric, at least, and Congress is increasingly people in Washington who say once Trump's favorable ratings drop below 40% consistently, then suddenly some Republicans might actually think it's in their interest to start bucking him. Well, he's not consistently below 40%, but he's kind of nudging down there. You've got a couple of 36s and a couple of 38s. Maybe they're outliers, but they're more consistent than we've seen before. I think that's going to impact Trump. I think it's going to impact how the Congress looks at backing Trump on some of these wild ideas. And we're in the second week of January. So, this has really got a long run to play out as we run into the midterms. But midterms are really all what 26 is going to be about, I think.
It's going to be quite a year. Doug, it's good to see you, as always. Doug Redeker there of International Capital Strategies, the president setting the tone for the year ahead.
And when it comes to the midterms, this is also what we saw play out yesterday in Congress. You have 9 Republicans voting to advance a bill when it comes to the enhanced Obamacare subsidies. These are moderate Republicans in swing districts. Why? They want to get reelected.
Big year ahead. Coming up on the program, Neil Dutter of Renmac as President Trump vows to ban corporations from buying homes. Plus, Danny has your morning move with some big moves for defense names. Looking at the potential for a two-day slide on the S&P 500, down only slightly this morning. We're down by 0.2%, down by 0.25% on the NASDAQ 100. So much to talk about in the last 24 hours. A shaky moment for the home builders, for Blackstone yesterday, a more interventionist White House on the horizon. Lots of suggestions. Will it actually result in actual policy? I've got no idea. But to Lisa's point, in the bond market, if you're looking at an extra $500, $600 billion in defense spending, then the Treasury market's got to have a say here, right? At the moment, 10's doing okay at 416.
How much is this just a bond market participants saying this isn't going to happen, it's not going to pass? Because at this point, if you're looking at the Committee for a Responsible Budget and saying it could increase the deficit by $5.8 trillion, that's not pocket change, right? That suddenly is a significant amount, especially when you counter in interest payments. So it raises a question, are they ignoring it? Is everyone just shrugging it off? When is a risk factor actually becoming a risk factor, considering that people are looking to just completely look through any rhetoric?
It's been somewhat snoozy in the bond market. I can say that the 10-year bond yield in a range of 4 to 420 for something like the last 4 months, and we're kind of in the middle of it at the moment at 416. As we count you down to the opening bell, 2 hours away, 3 hours away. Let's get you an update on some morning movers. Here's Danny with more. Hey, Danny.
Hey, John, I'm starting there with the defense companies because what a roller coaster it has been with Trump yesterday, his executive order of no dividends, no stock back, capping executive pay. That sent all of these shares lower, specifically RTX. He called out Raytheon saying that they're not going to do any work with the U.S. government until they figure out how to more fastly develop weapons for the government. And then, as you mentioned, late yesterday, we get another truth post where Trump says that they're going to massively increase defense spending. And that's why you're getting a rally in the pre-market, 5%, 7%, 7.6% in the case of Northrop Grumman. Elsewhere, AbbVie, those shares are falling this morning alongside Revolution Medicines. They are a maker of cancer treatments. Late yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reporting that AbbVie was close to a deal for buying it. Shares surged 23% of Revolution Medicines. They're back this morning because AbbVie told Bloomberg that, nope, we are not buying the company. I should say Wall Street Journal, they are sticking with their story, and you're not completely seeing that premium getting priced out of Revolution Medicine. Again, only down about 10% in the pre-market. Finally, some earnings. Constellation Brands reporting yesterday. This is the beer maker of Modelo and Corona. Those shares up 2.3%. They surprised to the upside. They reaffirmed their full year guidance, but expectations were so low. RBC pointing out that thanks to profitability, things did well, but it is the concern around Hispanic customers. The company emphasized this, saying that because of what's going on in the political environment, Hispanic customers are pulling back in the U.S. and a loss of what they called 4,000 calorie jobs like construction, agriculture. Weakness in that sector is also leading to lower sales. John.
Interesting read through. Danny, thank you. Appreciate it. More from Danny in the next hour. On our radar this morning, President Trump demanding a $500 billion increase in annual defense spending, calling on firms like RTX to freeze buybacks and dividends, threatening to cut them off unless they pour those profits back into production. Elsewhere, the U.S. expecting to control as much as 50 million barrels of Venezuelan crude. In an interview with the New York Times, President Donald Trump saying the U.S. will be extracting Venezuelan oil for years, adding, we will rebuild the country in a very profitable way. And finally, Chinese officials reportedly planning to approve some imports of NVIDIA's H200 chips. Sources telling us here at Bloomberg the technology will be blocked from military use, but will be allowed for select commercial use.
Yeah, and this is something that had been increasingly expected based on rhetoric coming from both sides. There had been some questions over the past 24 hours about whether the Chinese government was going to freeze this based on some of the tit for tat between the two nations. But what is clear is that China still relies on U.S. technology in a significant way. So for all of the goals of trying to be self-reliant, clearly that is not the case, and the interrelation continues.
It clearly was baked in based on what Jensen Huang was hearing directly from customers. He told Ed Ludlow, we are seeing an indication that there is a lot of demand, that these individuals want to go in with the purchasing of it. What I find interesting is that they're going to be barred from military,
people to rent in homes that they otherwise wouldn't be able to buy in the first place. So, they provide a sort of backstop, I think, particularly for home builders. I'm sort of a markets guy. I mean, if, any good housing policy, if it's going to incentivize construction, you'd probably see the home building stocks rally on the news. Instead, you didn't. Obviously the home builders sold off. But this isn't really the main issue facing housing, John. The main issue really is people don't want to sell their homes because they have low mortgage rates that they don't want to give up. So that to me is the main issue. But this is sort of a nice kind of bright, shiny object for the economically illiterate.
Neil, what you're getting at is important because for a lot of people, the starting point of this conversation is we have a supply shortage.
I used to say, if I hear AI one more time, I'm going to lose it. But Monday.com is super.
What can we do about it? Are you pushing back against that?
Yes, it's very challenging to say that you have a supply shortage with home prices declining in many parts of the country. It's very difficult to say you have a supply shortage with new unsold completed inventory rising going into this year. Home builders, if you look at some of the private data, home builders are sitting on the most completed unsold inventory that they have really since 2010. So how is that consistent with the housing shortage? I mean, I think the housing shortage conversation is really, it's sort of a fake concept, I think. I mean, it's really at what interest rate, at what price? Clearly